Hi there everybody, Carlos here. I am bringing you today a deck profile from my run at YCS Vancouver. At YCS Vancouver, I played what I like to call Trap Toolbox Labrynth. I was able to clear day 2 with this deck. It performed very well. That being said, the morning of day 2, I thought that the tournament started at 10 a.m. like day 1, but it turns out it started at 9 a.m. So I was late to my first round and I dropped. But overall, it went pretty well. My matchups were against, in no particular order, Punk Gold Pride, Flunderies, 2 Pearlies, Branded Despia, Branded Chimera, and Unchained. Runic for Hire Sprite. My 2 losses were against Runic for Hire Sprite and 1 Pearly, and both of these cases it was because the match went to time. Had the match been able to proceed, I'm confident that I would have been able to win both. In fact, one of them I know I would have been able to win because I had a line for game right then and there, and time was called right when I normal summoned Ariana, unfortunate. But anyway, with all that being said, let's get started. So for the Labrynth engine, we played 3 Ariana, 2 Lady, and some 1-up engine requirements. We have 1 Lovely, 1 Coup Clock, 1 Torby, and 1 Field Spell. So you'll notice right away, this is not IKEA. We are not maxing out on furnitures. Then 3 Welcome Labyrinths. They're all max rarity, quarter century secret rare. This one's just a little shy, so it doesn't want to show its foil, okay? But they're all max rarity, I promise. And 3 big welcome. So there's not much to say here. We're not running IKEA, but I still run 1 copy of Torby because it helps me make Chaos Angel. And because I'm running less furnitures, I decided to max out on Welcome just to have a little bit more engine. Next, for some consistency spells, we played 3 Pot of Prosperity, 2 Extrav, and 1 Called By. So because this is not IKEA, we are not as concerned for card advantage as we are for digging key pieces out of our deck. Because of that, we played 3 copies of Prosperity and only 2 Extra. Going with 5 pot cards, I was originally skeptical on, as I didn't want to brick by having too many of these, but honestly, it was the right call to play 5. The deck felt incredibly consistent, and even in the cases where you do open 2 pot cards, like 1 Extra, 1 pot, or 2 Pot of Prosperities, like that, you're still in a good position because just resolving one of these cards already is extremely advantageous. The 1 of Called By is questionable in the main deck. This was certainly a 40th card. Other things you could have considered in this slot are the 1 copy of Chandraglier, so you could at least have 1 of each furniture. But honestly, it came up every single time I drew it, so I don't regret. Now for the Floodgates, because you know we're playing Floodgates. And first Floodgate, 3 copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Second one, 3 copies of Skill Drain. So, what is Labrynth's biggest weakness? Unchained. What is the most popular deck of the format right now? Unchained. What is the most powerful deck in the format? Probably Unchained. Lord of the Heavenly Prison prevents set cards from being destroyed. That means your opponent also cannot destroy their own set cards. This is essentially a Floodgate versus Unchained, and well, Skill Drain needs no introduction. Lord of the Heavenly Prison also combos very well with the Trap Toolbox portion of our deck. 3 copies of Lava Golem for board breaking, 3 copies of Daruma Karmic Canyon, and 3 copies of Solemn Strike. So these are in essence our board breaker package. Lava Golem is fairly obvious, but Karmic Canyon and Strike are board breakers in and of themselves. You see, what happens a lot this format is that when combo decks make their turn 1 board, assuming you're going second, these boards are not really adequately prepared to deal with Activate Lord, set 5. Because if you set a Daruma Karmic Canyon and you set a Solemn Strike, and you activate Lord to prevent your back row from being destroyed, you'll be able to break the entire board on turn 3. And then Lava Golem can also help you out key monster interactions. Now to go along with these board breaking trap cards, I played 4 single trap cards that represent the toolbox. Terrors of the Overroot, Ice Dragon's Prison, D-Barrier, and Eradicator. Eradicator is a card that is not so much in the main deck anymore in Labrynth builds, but when you're playing Lord of the Heavenly Prison, this card is live so much more often that I decided to just play it. Dimensional Barrier hits a ton of decks in the format. Ice Dragon's Prison is particularly good versus Unchained and Dragon Link. And Terrors of the Overroot is always just a solid contender. Moving on to the extra deck, we have the 6 cards that should comprise every Labrynth extra deck, 3 copies of Muckracker, and 3 copies of Chaos Angel. If you're not using these cards in your Labrynth deck, you're not playing it to its fullest. Then I have 3 just random generic cards that could maybe come up. Lingaribo for Ibli, Zeus, and Dingirsu. Dingirsu is particularly nice because it outs cards like Grave of the Super Ancient Organism. Then the last few cards in my extra deck are actually just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 Super Poly targets. Muddragon, Garura, Earth Golem Adignister, shoutouts to Mount Fuji, Borreload Furious Dragon, Starving Venom, and Draco Quest. Earth Golem Adignister came up particularly a lot. This card was insane all weekend. I banished it face down off pot every single time. Really clutch. Thank you, Fuji. With these 6 cards, you basically cover a lot of your matchups. Spoiler alert, I am playing Super Poly in the side deck. Borreload Furious covers dragons, Starving Venom covers things like Despia, Draco Quest covers Manadium, Earth Golem covers Mathmech, Garura and Muddragon just pretty much cover everything else. Now the final part of the deck, and the part of the deck that I am most proud about, is the side deck. This side deck is not only holistic, it is also simple. Oftentimes what I found what Yu-Gi-Oh players do is when they enter a tournament, they end up playing a side deck which is a hodgepodge of cards that may come up or that can come in handy versus a certain matchup, without actually putting any thought into how these side deck cards cover your matchup spread. I can tell you that all 15 of these cards were sided in at least once throughout my entire tournament run, and all 15 of these cards are there to improve my matchup versus every single deck that I expected in the meta. If you go an entire tournament without siding a card, that either means that you made a poor side deck choice or you made a poor meta call. All 15 cards here came in handy, and I'm actually extremely proud of all of these. Starting off, 3 Solemn Judgment. Generally speaking, these replace the Lava Golems when you're going first. 3 copies of Ash Blossom. These improve your matchup versus branded decks, and as well as the mirror match. Particularly IKEA can be difficult for this deck to play since we have just less engine than they do, and they're not really hurt by our floodgates. Exceeds Encore answers Pearly and Kashtira. Super Poly answers everything else, particularly Dragon Link. And then the most questionable card in the side deck, I would say, is 3 copies of Evenly Matched. I did side this in versus Flunderies as well as Unchained, but, well, let's transition into talking about the deck's strengths and weaknesses. So I've already covered one of the strengths, which was the consistency from the 5 pot cards, as well as the fact that most boards that decks are making right now are ill-equipped to handle Activate Lord set 5 paths. Daruma, Karma Canyon, and Solemn Strike end up being a very dangerous combo. However, this deck's biggest weakness is time. I mentioned that my only 2 losses were to time, and that's not a coincidence. What happens is that if you're playing against a combo deck, and you either lose the die roll turn 1 and they're able to set up too crazy of a board, or you don't open that well and they're able to crack you and break it. If they can win game 1, decks can stall you long enough game 2 and just run out the clock until there's about 5 minutes left, scoop in game 2, and then burn you in game 3. And because the only hand trap that I'm playing is Ash Blossom, they'll pretty much always get away with burning me in time. This deck struggles not so much with OTKing, but it can struggle with OTKing quickly versus large bodies. Things like a defense position Lubellion can be pretty hard to just run over for this deck. So there's a world where I would consider playing 3 copies of Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. I almost said Doggy Style over this 3 copies of Evenly Matched. But all in all, I am once again extremely proud of all 15 of these cards. And well, that concludes the deck profile. YCS Vancouver was a lot of fun. The event went very smooth. Congratulations to Jesse Cotton for winning the event, who is my teammate in the Exo Sisterhood. I'm looking forward to other events in the future, and a particular shout out this time I want to give out to my camera woman, thank you so much, and also to Mount Fuji for helping me build this deck the night before. I am incredibly proud of this deck. It performed very well. I never bricked. It was a fantastic meta call. And if I could run the event over again, I would play this exact same deck again. Minus maybe the evenly matches. But yeah, hope you all enjoyed. And if you have any questions, leave it down in the comments, okay? Oh, and I would be remiss if I did not say this. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Okay, all right. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.